India's actually emerged as a silver lining in many of these issues, whether it is trying to bring down regulation or it is allowing startups to flourish and so on and so forth. How do you view India today in the context of the hypothesis that you've laid out?
Yeah, so firstly, I was very vocal about this, which is that no matter what my political views may be, from an economic standpoint, I was all with the government for not having gone crazy on stimulus in 2020-21. There were a lot of people here who wanted this government as well, clamor to go out, stimulate, you need to do more, and stuff like that, like a huge clamor. And I was like, no, that's just not the right thing to do. Partly because we are not, in terms of, we're not America anyway with a reserve currency, and the few emerging markets which tried to do that ran into trouble subsequently. The Brazils and other countries, which ran into trouble by doing too much stimulus. So first, it was a sensible thing to do to not go and have crazy on like stimulus back then. Secondly, India's trajectory broadly, from an economic freedom standpoint, has been positive. Now, my frustration has always been on how much more can happen, right? In terms of the fact is that it's still a country where privatization is absent. Whatever privatization we see in this country is by malign neglect, which is that in every sector you sort of, like the public sector is allowed to slowly diminish and lose value, while the private sector, and we've seen this historically from telecom to airlines and stuff like that, the private sector keeps gaining share. It's almost like a free cakewalk from them. In the hospital industry, something similar is happening now. That, you literally have. It happened earlier in banking to some extent. So I think that that's the whole idea, that currently, for example, I wish there was more that we could do. But broadly, the trajectory we've been on the last 30 to 40 years has been positive. And the results are there for us to see, which is that we are not sort of voting to go back to what the 1970s and 80s are. Yes, there is talk in India on how to better design the safety net. Like, are the benefits really reaching the end person? How much has digitization helped and not helped do that? I think those are legitimate debates. But broadly, I would say that the economic trajectory as far as India is concerned is something that I feel good about. Now, and my only frustration is how much more could be done.
I'll get to the unfinished business in just a second, but one of the other aspects, in the context of debt and deficits that we were speaking of, and that's again positive for India, because the government has been meaningfully trying to cut down on both the debt and deficit. And I think that this is something that you point out as well, that beyond the rhetoric of saying that, look, we're going to be going out there and spending more, doing much more on welfare, actually, that there has been expenditure compression, and the talk doesn't really match the numbers, which is not a bad thing entirely, because there has been much more restraint on the part of the Indian government.
Yes, like I'd say that broadly that's fine. I'd say that in terms of the fiscal side, the macroeconomic management side, whether it's inflation, debt or deficits, I think that, in terms of the numbers look relatively good. The problems we have are much more on the micromanagement side. The macro, in terms of as far as India is concerned, in terms of there's nothing that I can say, like in terms of it's done really well. The issues which we can speak about is at the micromanagement side, all the distortions which are being caused. And that is something which I have issues with, I've spoken about in the past. As I said, apart from the frustration of what more can be done, it's about the fact that why is private investment still not picking up much more?
Why do you think that's the case?
Yeah, so, like in terms of, I still feel it's very tough to do business on the ground in terms of that. And one thing which I've been very vocal about is in terms of the, like the role of the fact that you have weaponized the investigative agencies. I've been very critical of that you may do that for political purposes, but there are serious business and economic consequences to that. On the ground, we know it, that the fear now, once again, of being raided, of having the, like in terms of the power that the bureaucrats have got on that at the top level, they don't even know that in terms of how it's being misused at the ground level, what exactly is going on out there. I think that, the license, and the fact that, some of these agencies have been even more weaponized in terms of the powers they have, who they can call for questioning, how that can be done. Like all this may appear optically it's being done for anti-corruption stuff, but the real consequences on the ground, we meet people, we talk to businesses privately, we do that. So I think that it's stuff like that I have much greater problem with. The macro management, I think, has been like, really good. The micromanagement in terms of like, why is it so difficult? Why is manufacturing as a share of the economy still stagnating, at 14, 15%? of like GDP forever. Like in terms of that, why is foreign investment still not flowing in more the way like it should be? Why is, like in terms of domestic private investment not doing more? Because it's still the government capex cycle, which has done a lot. I think that those are issues that I would like to see more to be done for. And as I said, that the great opportunity for us is that, like in a way, is that China has clearly imploded, right? I mean, it's an economy that I've been pretty bearish on, as you know, for a while. And I think that the China story is done. Now, the debate in China is only whether...
When you say it's done, what do you mean exactly? Because there was a lot of talk around, no one's anywhere but China and so on and so forth. But that's not, it hasn't played out that way.
Exactly.
So what do you mean by
but I
when
think
you say
China
it's
story is done in a way, like in the fact that I feel that the debate in China now is that that in terms of can the economy still grow, or is the economy headed for some sort of a property financial sector bust? That's the range of the debate. I think that the days when China could grow at even 4-5% are behind us, right? Because I think that's because its demographics, its debt are just totally against it. No country in the world can generate a meaningful growth when your population is shrinking. For the first time, Chinese population is shrinking. How do you generate growth on the back of that, in terms of that? And then the debt hangover that they have is incredible in terms of, like how much debt they pumped up in the last decade. And they've created so much overcapacity across industries using this debt that it's very hard for them to grow out of this. So that's the debate as far as China is concerned. Plus, you have the added thing that because of geopolitical reasons and other things, that nobody wants to concentrate their bets on China. But remember, when China was booming and doing well, it was attracting FDI of 3-4% of GDP. Foreigners were lining up to get into China. I saw that in the 90s, in the 2000s. Foreigners just wanted to get into China, and they felt very secure and stable. That once we get into China, we know exactly what it is. In India's case, that's just not happening. That why are foreign investment lining up? It's, you can't, to attract foreign investment by talking to the top CEO of a top tech company and keeping him happy and doing that. That's just not the way it works. It has to be much more organic in terms of it. In China, the provinces were really attracting investment, going out of the way to do that. So the issue is that we need to think about those issues, about how do we do that? Because, we can be happy with the current growth rate, which is 6 to 7%. On a relative basis, it's fantastic. At a time when the rest of the global economy is growing at 2 or 3%, maybe, it appears really good. When no other really, serious emerging market is out there. So on a relative basis, that's great. But remember, on this path, our per capita income is still less than $3,000. On this path, we are going to be, in terms of, we'll won't even become a serious middle-income nation in the next 20 years if we keep down this path. And people love to use middle-income definition. I'm saying relative to then, in terms of how will we appear in the, because on per capita income rankings, we have emerged now as the world's, fourth largest economy or something. But on per capita basis, we are still in the bottom third there. So how do we get per capita income levels to move much faster? I think that's the urgency I would like to see in the debate. So I think that, just to summarize this, macroeconomic management, great in terms of that. But in terms of micro, what more can we do and get more growth ambitious? I think that's what I'd like to see, because during China's heydays, we saw that.